I think we could just promise the country that at the earliest opportunity, we're going to get into phase 2.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you, my co-chair. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have begun to look at the report, you will see that we set out a table of content. Now, everybody wanted to know what was happening with the committee and couldn't understand why they couldn't see every move, and found it difficult to appreciate that the level of candor that was required in addressing the issues under consideration meant that we didn't want to be afraid of being TikToked or I heard someone said in one of the media programs that had the meetings been open, we could have just clipped a section and TikTok it out so you could see what happened. I know that everyone wants to know. And saying that there is a proper place for work to be done behind the scene does not equate to secrecy at all. We made it clear that you will hear and see the documents we have worked with. We have transcript for all the meetings, except I think 1 or 2 when the stenowriters were unavailable. But the report sets out the establishment of the committee, the terms of reference, and the terms of reference remind everyone that we didn't change course after we commenced. We commenced on agreement to proceed in phases. We say thank you to the many who have contributed to the work. The operations of the committee through the work of the subcommittees, the extent of the public engagement done, and we first met on March 22, and we held over 38 meetings leading up to the preparation of the report. 5 town hall meetings, over 80 other stakeholder engagement sessions were facilitated both face-to-face and online. The town hall meetings were held in each county within the parishes of St. James, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland, Manchester, and Portland. Alongside the town hall, we had stakeholder sensitization sessions in the parishes of St. James, Manchester, Portland, and Westmoreland, with participants from the private sector, especially the chambers of commerce, the ministers' fraternal, service clubs, community groups, custodes rotulorum, and justices of the peace. Alongside this, the Legal Education Division of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs engaged in over 200 sessions with civil servants across 38 ministry departments and agencies over a period of 11 months. In fact, there were 42 sensitization sessions with over 2,000 public servants. Additionally, sensitization took place with the 5th and 6th form students at some of our schools. Following different rounds of interface with the public, the CRC issued 2 separate sets of publications in the Jamaica Gleaner and the Observer on June 4 and September 21. The first was a call for submissions to enable the committee to consider any constitutional reform-related matter of particular importance to any member of the public or any group. And the second was a list of all the issues raised in the submissions and other commentaries which were considered by the CRC. And we ask whether there was any other issue that you would like to have us consider. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, working with what we had, we engaged. And when we looked comparatively, it is significant, and it far exceeded what any other committee has done on the consultation front. But I got it that those who felt they should have been a part of the committee did not think that what was done was enough. And this is something we will have to work on as a nation. The fact that you are not personally part of something doesn't mean you have to decry it. It doesn't mean it is not good enough, because we're all working for a cause. Then we had our members participating in radio and television programs on RGR, IRI FM, Mellow, Cool, Love, Fire, Edge, Power 106, Fame, Gospel Jamaica, Nationwide News, Rebel Radio in the US, Television Jamaica, and CVM. And we did some 30 seconds public service announcement and a jingle. The CRC also partnered with the Jamaica Association for Debate for Empowerment, that's JADE, to host a series of competitions to include debates between the University of the West Indies and the University of Technology, Jamaica, and among high, preparatory, and public school. We're now joined by Dr. Lloyd Barnett, who, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know, Dr. Barnett has devoted his entire professional life on constitutional affairs. And he has worked tirelessly to help bring a certain understanding to the Constitution of Jamaica and the work that needs to be done to further the goals of independence. I believe that when the bill is tabled to abolish the monarchy, it would be a fitting honor for him and the work that he has done. Dr. Barnett, please come to the podium. Please come to the podium. I'm going to invite him to just share with members of the public the approach we took and how we manage the risks as we understood them.
Morning, fellow Jamaicans.
Morning.
I ventured outside of my competence and field and created a structure, and it reads as follows: reconstruction surgery on the body politic. The composition of our body politic is a spine of the courage and sacrifice of our national heroes, the organs of our freedom fighters, icons and leaders, the blood of our people's aspirations and self-determination, the thick skin of our advocacy and aspirations, all covered by an imperial monarchy. We are now preparing to initiate the process of transformation by the removal of the imperial outer layer. There is no reason consistent with our national identity and pride why we should, after 6 decades of independence, further delay this process of transformation. In this theater of national consciousness, let us, with the instruments of patriotism and mutual respect, combine our skills in the desired reconstruction and transformation. The Constitutional Reform Committee has spent the last year in pursuit of these objectives. It has tabled or provided a report to the Cabinet, which consists of over 50 sets of recommendations. Some of those 50 have subdivisions. And to a great extent, it appears to us that most of those recommendations have support of all relevant parties, including the parliamentary opposition. And as you well know, in the last 2 days, we have been focused not on the consensus, but on the divisions. And although the divisions are, in the context of the totality of constitutional reform, fairly limited, we have concentrated on divisions rather than unity. And it appears to me that that approach needs to be discontinued, and we should seek to establish consensus where it does not exist, and to find ways of solving problems which can be solved once the determination to find a solution exists. And that is not for the CRC, it's not even for the cabinet, it's not even for the parliamentarians, it's for us as ordinary Jamaicans to find the final solution. So I'm appealing to you, to all Jamaicans, let us work together to find the way in which we can establish Jamaica as our own, under its own banner, with its own name and its own emblems. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can get a copy of my surgical prescription.
Thank you, Dr. Barnett. Ladies and gentlemen, those of us who have been doing this work are not only passionate about it, but we believe it is the right thing that we are embarking on as a nation. And I do join Dr. Barnett in the appeal that a different kind of leadership is required at all levels. When Prime Minister Holness embarked on this process, he did so in good faith, with an understanding that it was what the nation was calling for as we went into the celebration of our 60th anniversary of political independence. Indeed, we must focus on the things on which we agree more than on the things which divide us. I'm going to invite Dr. Spence to share her observations with you from the civil society perspective.
Good morning, everyone. I have thoroughly enjoyed this process and learned so much from it. I threw my heart into it, and I almost didn't miss any meeting. In fact, when Mr. Harper showed us the register of attendance and I saw that I had supposedly missed 5 meetings, I challenged that. I still challenge that. I'm sure I didn't miss any. But I wanted to share something with you. Just out of graduate school, I got a job at the Institute of Jamaica at the Museums Division, and I was a museums educator for a while. And what I got immersed in at that point was the story of who we are as a people, and how over time we've managed not to tell that story to ourselves in a convincing way. One of the stories I unearthed in my research on Jamaican history, and particularly the history of the people of Trelawney, was that on the day of emancipation, our ancestors took the implements of slavery, the chain, the whip, and all the implements that kept them personally enslaved and their bodies exploited, and buried them in front of the Baptist church and said, never again. This should never again. That was 1834. A form of freedom. 1838, we moved it further when we went into full freedom. And in 1865, we had another kind of understanding of freedom imposed on us, or extracted from the British through the work of the people of St. Thomas. 1944, we had another movement towards independence, full independence. And then in 1962, we had political independence. The journey of our independence is not a one-shot thing. And we've been doing it, and we've been moving it along and improving the quality of it each time. And so the conversation in the public that has emerged with this is the quality of our final court. And I think that's a worthy conversation. But I think also the conversation that we have had, which is that let us do this in phases, is reflective of our history and the way our people have undergone this business of true and full independence. I think along with this is the matter of also our economic independence. And I think we have been working on that as well. And I think that as a people, we ought to be proud that we sat down this time in a time of peace. And Professor Albert always talks about this. There are different ways to make and break a constitution. One way to break a constitution is through war. But in a peaceful way, we have negotiated this process. Yes, there have been moments when we have disagreed, but that's a part of a democracy. The disagreement must be allowed for, and all our perspectives must be put on the table. Perspectives about process, perspectives about content, perspectives about the sides that we argue from, whether the political sides, the socioeconomic sides, the education, whatever side we come from, those are relevant and should be put on the table. And I think this process saw people coming together with different perspectives, but choosing to come to a consensus. And our process was truly committed to that perspective of consensus. And there were moments in that committee when I felt as if I would tear my hair out one strand at a time, because this committee would not move from a matter unless consensus was reached. And it exasperated some of us like myself, who would like to see us rush through the process, were forced to sit back and listen and hear the perspectives of the other side or the other perspective, because it was important. And so even though there's this conversation in the public about consensus and whether or not we got to consensus, I would like to assure you that we did in that room. There's another consensus to be reached with our politicians and the political leaders, and yet there's another consensus to be reached by the people. So I think that it was a worthy cause. It still is. And I look forward to phase 2 and the continuation of the conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Spence. Yes, Dr. McCarthy, very briefly, and then we hear from Suji, and then we go into the recommendations and take your questions. I know that is the part everyone is waiting for, very quickly.
Thank you, Minister. And good morning, everyone. It has indeed been a journey, and I could echo a lot of what Nadine has just said. One of the things that comes to mind is the fact that as I listen to the conversation out there, I recognize that our people have come of age and they are at a stage where they want to be a part of the process. And as such, they want for their voices to be heard, and that is commendable. This whole constitutional reform has really stirred a lot of conversations, even on the road and in various groups. And we are thankful that the Lord has helped us to reach this point. One of the things that was mentioned, and I'm going to re-emphasize, that throughout the entire process of our meeting and coming together, looking at this first phase and all of that, consensus was what was critical. And so all of the recommendations stated in the report that is now available to the public was reached by consensus by everyone in the committee. We had government representatives, we had members from the opposition as well as from the other groupings. And we respected the views of each other and discussed until we could come to a consensus. And I do hope that, as we look at getting through this first phase, as was mentioned by Dr. Spence, the question of the court is very critical. And I think now that the report has been released, this is now going to become a very robust discussion where members of the public need to understand the various options that are available for us as it relates to our final court. So the whole process of further educating our public, that is critical. We have worked out a strategy where that is concerned. We have done some work in educating persons, but still there is much more to be done. And so I really am thankful that I was a part of this process. I have been in a learning environment, and I am thankful. And I pray God that at least the objective of that point of agreement that we all have more or less come to in terms of moving the monarchy, that will happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. Sujay, very quickly, and then we are going to take questions. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I come from a community in St. James, Glendavon, and commonly one of the things I hear is a study thing set. And this reform process is an opportunity to show young Jamaicans that that is not how the things are set. We've had in our history many times when our political parties are divided on issues, and because of that, it sets back the progress of our country. The young people are looking, they are listening, they're observing, they're critiquing, and they're watching what our leaders will be doing throughout this process. Throughout the past year, we've engaged groups such as the PNPYO, the PNP Patriots. In fact, members of the opposition, led by Donna Scott Motley, Senator Donna Scott Motley, as well as Minister Malahou Fort, was a part of those conversations. We would have met with G2K and other politically aligned youth groups. We would have met with the National Youth Council of Jamaica, the different National Secondary Students Council, the Jamaica Prefects Association, and other nationally representative youth bodies, because we understand that this is a process that it needs to be inclusive. The decisions that have been taken at the table as it relates to how we move forward as a country were not determined without consultation and conversations. And the consensus that we've arrived at on the matters within the report has been reached based on those consultations and conversations. And so I am grateful to have been a part of this process, and I'm hopeful that within the next 10 years, we'll not be having this conversation that would have been going on for the past 60 years. And so I say to our leaders, our young people are watching, they are looking on, and they want to see a positive action in the interests of Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the other members of the committee who are not here with us worked tirelessly in the cause. And I again want to put on record my appreciation to the two opposition parliamentarians, Senator Donna Scott Motley and Mr. Anthony Hilton. They engaged in good faith, they participated well, and what took place inside the committee is a good example for the rest of the society to follow. We worked in the presence of our differences. We worked respectfully and constructively in the interest of Jamaica. So now we get to the spicy part. We're open to answering your questions.
Thank you, Minister Malahou Ford, and may I invite as well the newly minted Minister with responsibility for information back to the lectern, so both could field questions. May I take the opportunity as Minister goes to the lectern to congratulate her on having the portfolio of information, and to the newly minted Parliamentary Secretary at the OPM as well. And just to remind persons, the official swearing-in ceremony is at 2 this afternoon at King's House. Now, Minister, we do have members of the media here with us. May I then start with Ms. Small from the Gleaner.
Good morning, Ministers. Sashana Small from the Gleaner. Minister Malahou, can you clarify one of the recommendations in the CRC report as it relates to citizenship? It says Jamaican citizen should be the essential qualifying citizenship criterion for membership in Parliament. So can you clarify what essential here refers to? Is this saying that the only citizenship that should be allowed in Parliament is Jamaican citizenship?
Tell you what, I'm going to invite Dr. Barnett to assist in answering that question. I know the answer, but yes. Dr. B, would you please come to the
Doc,
lectern?
I'm sorry.
Please come
Doc,
to the lectern.
Yes.
Yes, essential means what it means, that is the critical and most important qualification necessary for the holding of these important offices. And it has been applied to the president also, that we recommend should be established in the new Republican form of constitution. The question which has arisen is not as to whether Jamaican citizenship should be the essential qualification, but what is the impact where a person has dual or other citizenships. And the approach which was taken by the Constitutional Reform Committee is that other citizenship, which as we know can result from the fact that my grandmother married somebody else in another country which gives me citizenship by descent, should not disqualify me. That was the basic approach we took, but focused on the essentials of that duality, and that is whether or not that person has a conflicting allegiance. And we know that there's a Jamaican decision which says it's not merely possessing dual citizenship that is the relevant criterion, but whether there is conflicting allegiance. Because we took the view that if a person is representing Jamaicans in our parliament, then that person cannot owe a duty to another state, which may sometimes come into conflict with Jamaica's interests.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barnett. There's a follow-up.
Dr. Barnett, but given the conversation that has been taking place in the public relating to dual citizenship, should we therefore then amend the Constitution to allow for parliamentarians to only have Jamaican citizenship to sit in Parliament?
But that is something which, as you see, has arisen since our report was submitted, in the sense that when we examine the matter, we examine it in the context of established principles and almost an established national consensus on what is the proper test. And so we extended and applied the test in the recommendations which we made. So this new dispute, call it that, which has arisen in relation to whether the nominal holding of citizenship, let me call it that, should be a disqualification, is one that we did not consider in that context. We dealt with the substance. So that if the cabinet were a committee appointed by the cabinet, responsibility to the cabinet, as far as I'm concerned, if the cabinet asks us to reconsider the matter, I'm sure all the members will be quite willing to reconsider it in the context of that new dimension.
I'm sorry, Doc, I figure you've answered, but just to ensure that there is out of an abundance of caution, there's someone online as well who is asking, is there a distinction that the committee would want to make between average citizens sitting and running as members of parliament as opposed to leaders of the particular party running?
That is the question which has arisen, I believe.
Yes.
That is one way of putting it. But the committee has not met to, as I say, to deal with it in that particular context. So it will have to be resubmitted to the committee, if it is so desired.
Thank you, Doc. Let's go to Mahiri. Did you have one?
There is really no place for conflicting allegiance serving in the parliament. Before you can reach the role of leader of the opposition or prime minister, you first have to be elected a member of parliament. And that is why we also dealt with it at that foundation level.
Morning, Minister. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News here. Has there been any dialogue or the commencement of dialogue between the Prime Minister and the opposition leader on the matter of the final court? Because we know we're in a situation right now where the opposition leader says that he won't be okay with the process continuing unless we make the decision to go to the CCJ.
The last time the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister spoke, to my knowledge, was after the report was generated behind the Speaker's chair at the Parliament. And I know that there is some follow-up will take place. I think Cabinet only finalized its consideration on the report yesterday. And I know that based on the deliberations and the decisions taken, follow-up meetings will take place.
Thank you, Minister. I believe there's another question, Sushana, but let me just get to someone online as well from one of the media entities. Minister Dixon, would you be able to provide a specific timeline for the, thank you so much, Dr. Barnett. Would you be able to provide a specific guideline, says the questioner, on exactly when the buses will arrive as opposed to a roundabout time, according to the speaker?
The plan, I mean, I'm obviously not responsible for the ship, but it was being loaded on the ship, and the ship is expected to arrive in July 2024, which will be in time for the September back-to-school period.
Thank you so much. Shauna?
Good morning again. Minister Dixon, two questions. Is the government concerned about how Minister Darrell Vaz's comments regarding Mark Golding's personal information and his further declaration that nothing is secret could undermine the government's push to build trust in an already low-trust society, especially as it relates to data protection? And the second question is in regards to the Artificial Intelligence Task Force that was established. What is the update? Has the force generate any kind of report as yet?
All right, thank you for those two questions. I'll start with the question in relation to data privacy. And I think this is the administration that has been the most committed to the concept of data privacy. We've done a lot of work in promulgating the Data Protection Act, and that was coming out of listening to the people of Jamaica who had legitimate concerns about the privacy of their data. And just last week in the Senate, I would have spoken to the Data Protection Act and our commitment to implementing it on June 1 in a phased manner. So I think it is very clear in terms of our actions and also in terms of our utterances, that strong, deep commitment to data privacy. And I think in the matter that you have raised, he was very clear in his, very publicly clear, at least on social media, that the information that he received came from a member of the opposition party. He said that very clearly. We have not seen a breach of data in this instant. I believe what he may have been saying when he said that nothing is secret is that when you are a public official, there are always people who know things about you, and there are always people who, for whatever reason, may pass information on you. And I think that's what he means, because there is no way that he would be saying that, it's okay to breach privacy, because he is the minister that had oversight for the Data Protection Act before it came to the office of the Prime Minister. So he's very seized of the rules, and I have no doubt that he would not have tried in any way to breach the data privacy rules, because he has been such a critical part of promulgating those rules. And so it's important that when we have these kinds of discussions, that we don't kind of build on that low trust environment situation that we have. The reality is a lot of money has been spent on data protection and data privacy. And when we start on June 1, I made it very clear there is no exemption for government entities. There is absolutely none. The administration has been clear that all government entities have to comply with the Data Protection Act. And that says how important data privacy is for us. On the second question of the Artificial Intelligence Task Force, I'm glad you asked that, and that means that I need to bring them here to talk to you too. The AI Task Force was formed last year, August. They know that their report is due at the end of July this year. So we are expecting a report. They did an interim report which looked at the areas that they will be focused on. They'll be looking at media and the use of AI in the media. They will also be looking at AI in education. It will look at the impact of AI on many different sectors in our country and how we can benefit from it and how we can also mitigate against some of the negatives around artificial intelligence. But they're working. They have many streams that are working. I think one of the things I'm most proud about with the AI task force is that Jamaicans, when it had been announced and you had put it in the media, all the media houses had noted that there was going to be a task force. We received letters from regular Jamaicans who said, I have experience in this area. And we actually appointed them to the committee, not knowing them, but just seeing their CVs and knowing that they had this interest in supporting Jamaica. So we look forward to their report in July.
Thank you so much, Minister, and especially that update on ensuring that the robustness of the cybersecurity element is kept.
Yes.
Mahira, you have a final question from you, and then we wrap up, Minister.
Thank you.
Morning again, Minister. Is there any word on when the bill to replace the monarchy will be tabled? And the second question I have is whether or not the establishment of a joint select committee will come into play or whether or not it's being contemplated.
Cabinet has approved the issuance of drafting instructions for the preparation of the bill. So we're now going to be preparing those instructions based on what will be implemented from the recommendations. There is work to be done, but we are working because we believe that we must go forward. We must go forward. It is the right thing to do. We are agreed that the monarchy should be abolished and a republican form of government be established. I am keeping faith that the quarrels will die down, that the wounds will heal, and that our leaders will find the maturity that is required. I believe that we must lead and look beyond elections and continue to hold the interest of the nation before us. I believe that we cannot fail as others behind us have failed, and it is our hope that those who come after us will find us faithful. So when I speak for my sectoral presentation, the nation will get some clear indication. We will reconvene, if not as a full committee, but certainly for the drafting strategy and the public engagement and communication subcommittees to continue the work to get the bill ready for tabling in Parliament. And we will work on the other areas that we must work on to arrive at consensus, because the framework of the Constitution rests on consensus. And I am keeping faith that we will find what it takes, because if we do not at this time, I don't know when else it will happen. This is a righteous cause, ladies and gentlemen. And, the universe will come to the rescue when the cause is righteous. I am keeping faith that we will proceed.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much as well to the members of the CRC. And as I hand over to Minister Dana Morris-Dixon, may we once again extend our condolences to members of the media fraternity on the untimely passing of Job Nelson. Job was indeed a very bright light in media, and he will certainly be missed.
Thank you, Naomi, and thank you for all the questions that you you had. I have to thank the Constitutional Reform Committee, and you saw that these are independent individuals who have given a lot of service to Jamaica, and we thank them, and we really hope that we'll be able to continue on the process. As I close, I remind you that it is Labor Day tomorrow, Thursday, May 23, and the theme is Ramp Up the Access, Show That You Care. And in 2021, the administration passed the long-awaited regulations for the Disability Act. And so this administration has demonstrated its commitment to persons living with disabilities. And this Labor Day, we are going to be doing a lot of initiatives across the country that are aimed at showing that we believe in accessibility, and we believe deeply that every single Jamaican matters, and every single Jamaican must have access to services. And our national activities will be taking place at the Institute of Jamaica, and I look forward to seeing many of you there. Happy Labor Day when it comes, and I know it's not a vacation, it's a day for us to serve our country, and thank you all.
Jamaicans are being urged this Labor Day to demonstrate care for the disabled, the elderly, and the vulnerable. Labor Day will be observed on Thursday, May 23, under the theme Ramp Up the Access, Show That You Care. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, says the government is committed to accessibility for all. She was addressing the recent Workers' Week and Labor Day launch held at her ministry's office in Kingston.
I'm happy this year's focus for Labor Day is on caring for persons with disabilities, caring for the elderly and the vulnerable by providing access for all. It is about access to buildings, to health care, to education, to every element of the nation's goods and services for all, without exception.
The national project this year will improve access to the country's oldest culture and heritage institution, the Institute of Jamaica.
Founded in 1879, the Institute is the repository of the nation's information on culture, science, heritage, and traditions, with its museums such as the Museum of Jamaican History, the Jamaica Music Museum, and the National Gallery.
In addition to the national project, each municipal corporation will also select and work on a parish project in keeping with the theme.
Each division will receive an allocation of $200,000 for Labor Day project in each division right across the municipalities. The mayors will get $275,000, and $500,000 will be provided to each municipality for the National Labor Day project.
Among the many government agencies participating, the Heart NSTA Trust has an island-wide plan.
We will be constructing ramps, mounting signage, establishing accessible parking spaces, installing handrails, creating more accessible restrooms, and refurbishing activities to include painting, minor repair, painting of perimeter walls, designing and painting of murals, provision of bed linen for those on the sick bay, and of course, repainting of pedestrian crossing.
But with volunteerism at the heart of Labor Day, it's not just about government-led activism. Representing the local government minister at the launch, his permanent secretary encouraged the public to collaborate and improve their communities.
This is an important theme that goes beyond the categories of persons it identifies. This theme represents the government's continuing effort to reignite and spread across our country the spirit of volunteerism and the attitudes of mutual respect, caring, concern, and compassion as normal daily experiences in our workplaces, homes, and communities. We appeal to every Jamaican to use this opportunity to build your community by the actions you take. Labor Day is an appeal to nationhood, and I urge us all to treat it not as a holiday, but as a working day on which we rediscover and build on the values that will make our beloved country the place of choice to live, work, raise families peacefully, and to do business.
Minister of Labor and Social Security, Pernell Charles Jr., says this year's theme will help to foster greater inclusivity.
I believe that it's a call to action for all of us as Jamaicans to pledge our support to fostering the inclusivity that is necessary and actually moving beyond just talking about it to getting something done. It serves as a reminder that every one of us, regardless of our challenges, regardless of our abilities, we are all in circumstances that merit equal access to opportunities and services.
Dr. Floyd Morris, who is Jamaica's first blind senator, welcomed the move.
And so, what is being proposed and what will be taking place for Labor Day 2024 fits right within what is required from the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the Disabilities Act of Jamaica, the Building Act of Jamaica, and various research that have been documented. And so I want to publicly endorse and support the activities of Labor Day 2024 because it is for a noble cause.
Activities for Workers' Week and National Labor Day 2024 include a Thanksgiving church service in Mount Bay St. Thomas on May 19. Centenarians Day is May 20, and on May 21, a floral tribute at the Aggie Bernard Monument will be followed by an unveiling ceremony of the bust of the Honorable Lyndon Newland. Then, on May 22, an expo and a discussion forum on services and support for persons with disabilities will take place. On the day, May 23, Labor Day projects will get underway right across the island. After the day's work, a national concert will be held at Emancipation Park.
This government, your government, is committed to facilitating an environment in which the creativity, the potential of every Jamaican worker can be encouraged, can be harnessed for the growth and development of this beloved land. Where all of us, where productivity is recognized as the springboard to launch us into the prosperity that we speak of.
National Labor Day 2024. Ramp up the access and show that you care for the disabled, elderly, and vulnerable among us. Jamaicans are being urged this Labor Day